So I'll talk about the Dion Bimal talk quickly. He talked about the 4 principles of well-being or something, and he was saying it's a 4-point awareness, and I just had deja vu kind of. But I was talking about this with myself too, just yesterday or the day before or something, was how what we do to ourselves, we do to others. And he was making a really important point about when we do something to someone or with somebody, is it good for them? Is it good for me being good to them? So sometimes I feel like I do something that's good for somebody else, but then it's not good for me. And I'm pretty good at not doing that, but also being aware if I'm doing something to somebody, is it good for them? And in it being good for them, is it good for me? And in that cycle, is it good for everyone? Is it good for all? And I think that's part of what is happening with this feeling of feeling stuck and trapped, is this living situation isn't good for me, and I know that. So I feel that, and I can't yet design a different one. And so he says when you design your life like that, or put your life right like that, then that's when things can really move. And he talked about cities and magic, and he talked about some cool stuff. So I was thinking, yeah, it's good to look into this stuff again. But then when I had that heart palpitation thing last night, I kind of felt like maybe I'm not supposed to look into this stuff yet. Maybe just be. Maybe that's too much trying to do something, or maybe I'm not trying, I'm preparing. I don't know. But that was a really good talk by him. So here are a few quotes by the book 1000, which explain, way after the fact of me talking about it a lot, what could be going on for me. So he's talking about somebody who is at level of conscious 594, and 600 is enlightenment. He was talking with this guy, and he said he stayed at LOC 594 and made 3 attempts to transition into non-duality. All 3 were aborted by panic attacks. Since I knew that he was closer than close, I got very curious as to what exactly was taking place each time to prevent him. And this is still a quote from the book. His chest would start to hurt so terribly that he was convinced that he was having a heart attack. He was certain that he was going to physically die. This scared him so much that he willfully shut down the process. He aborted the ego death. Your physical heart is on the left, I replied. I do not believe that it was a heart attack. It was an ego I thought attack. So Ramaji talks about how Ramana Maharshi says there's a spiritual heart or something on the right side. And it's interesting how Ramaji is saying there's this thing called an ego I thought attack. And I think this is happening to a lot of people. So in the book he says this is rare, but I think it's happening to a lot of people who are having panic attacks and then think that they're going to die or don't know what's happening. And he continues, listen, I'm not a doctor, so of course you should consult with a physician about such things. But I know for a fact that when a person is getting close to enlightenment, there are many things the ego, I thought, tries in order to scare you off. One of them is to make you very depressed. Another tactic it favors is to produce intensely painful sensations on the right side of the chest, where the causal heart is located. The guy from Thailand remained dubious. He had not read about the heart on the right, according to Ramana Maharshi. The idea of the ego I thought, I am the body, thought, that is the hidden root and source of the mind, performing such odd actions like an entity living inside him was too much. After the 3 failed attempts to transition into non-duality, as reported by my Australian friend, all of which were blocked by the chest pain masquerading as a heart attack, I noticed his LOC had suddenly dropped all the way down to 573. I'm sure he's preparing for another leap. I hope that this time he will be ready for the I thought and its stealthy tricks, especially the fear of death. It's an ace in the hole. So that's really interesting because that's what I experience in a nutshell. It feels like that, and I've talked about how it feels like the ego is scaring consciousness back to the body. It's this thought tied to the body, and I am the body, and the ego's dying, so the body's dying, when it's not. But the scary thing for me is it leads to feeling like I need to end the body in order to maybe end that fear. And it definitely happened last night, and maybe I need to figure that out. And yesterday, I didn't say it on video, but I actually felt like I could be tortured for this in some way. And then the book 1000 says, at least half a dozen people have told me about intense pain on the right side of the chest during a spiritual crisis or breakthrough. It was not a heart attack for them either. This is important information. Please pay close attention. It is hardly ever talked about. Negative symptoms of contraction, which can be physical, emotional, or mental, are the standard strategy by the ego I thought to discourage you on the path. The I thought has the power to intensify his contraction and bring in dark storms of thought and severe negative emotions. He may even imitate painful disease symptoms like chest pain to scare you into thinking you're going to die, but that is rare. If you experience chest pain or another serious sign of illness, you should get a thorough examination from your licensed healthcare physician. Please request a full battery of tests. I'm not a doctor, nor am I dispensing medical advice. These are my empirical observations based on reports from students. After your doctor scientifically eliminates the usual medical suspects, then you can consider the spiritual options. The bizarre case of the Aussie guy from Thailand illustrates that the ego I thought, I am the body, not or contraction, will go to any lengths in its efforts to discourage you from going through the ego death, gateway into non-duality. I want to stress that all of the I thought strategies are negative. Painful negative thoughts, painful negative emotions, painful negative body sensations. That is the full repertoire of the ego I thought. That is his torture kit. The ego I thought is himself terrified of dying. He is not thinking about you. He is only thinking about himself. He does not want to die. When I describe the I thought to students, I call it a thief, a con artist, a trickster, a criminal. The I thought does not care about you, the real self. It just cares about itself. Its strategies on the negative side are vast, yet it contributes nothing positive at all. Everything that is positive, such as feelings of peace, love, joy, gratitude, and bliss, are from the self, with a capital S, the pristine absolute. So this part I read to share because it's pertinent to me right now, and I need to remember it's the ego's tricks, the ego's trying to die, and I don't know if it can right now in the current situation. I feel like I went into that bliss oneness consciousness, seeing the vision of my friend from California, but that whole place is a higher consciousness, so it's really easier to abide in that. And so if I go into that blissy type state, then to move back down levels of consciousness, I'm going to feel some kind of ego contraction. So it's likely better to stay out of those bliss states and then not have to feel the contraction of lowering consciousness to be congruent with the reality around me, because I haven't really yet learned how to raise the consciousness of all that's around me. And I have, and it's been in mania, but it's short-lived because it's challenging to do with people one knows. It's more of an alone state and being with strangers. So reading on awakening might not be good because it's not quite time to awaken. So can I talk to myself through this delayed awakening? And it really does feel like torture at times, and it probably is going to feel like that. And one of the ways I got the clue about being in the 570s or 580s is in the book. It says, in contrast, the viewpoint in the 570s was, we're working on transcending the ego, but in the meantime, we're getting all these cool insights. Wait a minute, here's another one. In contrast, Louise Hay is saying perfect, whole, complete, here, now. So I've been in perfect, whole, complete, here, now a lot more in the past. I don't feel that because I feel like I have something to share with a certain group of people. So if I was just being all perfect and whole and complete, I wouldn't be talking like this to share whatever the hell is going on, which I don't even know. So I wanted to share that about that, and the book has a lot of other great insights and helpful hints, and I feel like maybe I will reach out to somebody to help me with this, because the people I know don't understand that part, so they would be helping me back into the mental health system. That's all they know how to do. And again, even if I need to put toxic chemicals in my brain in order to slow down this process because it's not yet time, and that's what could be happening for a lot of us who get put in the mental health system, is it's not yet time for this transformation. If it was, we would be transforming, and few people are, but it's not really ready to happen en masse. And I feel like I'm walking between both worlds. I feel like I'm going probably from like 570 to 6 something and back, and I haven't really been in the 600s lately, I don't think, but I have been, and I think in reading this, it's helping me see that heart contraction is the ego not wanting to die. Also realizing, oh, it's not time yet for the ego to die, so I'll wake up, I'll take some lipospheric vitamin C, and I'll go back to sleep. As long as I'm sleeping, that's okay. I can deal with that panic because I have the known gesture of getting up and taking the vitamin C, which used to be maybe getting up and taking Seroquel. And also knowing that I have this zap strap, and I kind of thought about that last night before I fell asleep. I don't want to do anything to harm myself accidentally. That's the last thing I want to do, but it seems like this ego mechanism would have me do something to harm myself in order for me to be ending up in the mental health system again and having to start again. So can I acknowledge that, yet continue to live the life that I'm living? And even if I have to drug myself for a couple days, it's not a big deal. I don't see that as a failure. It would change some of my milestone-y things, but I'm seeing now it's not necessarily about staying completely off meds. It's about preparing to transform and doing whatever necessary to make it so I don't get put in the hospital. So I don't want it to get to the point where I need to be put in the hospital because I've let it go too far. So yeah, lots to think about. I want to read more creativity quotes, but yeah, I have to figure out this balance between looking at transformation information, which could lead me to transform when it's not time to, or seeing that it's that, but focusing on ways to maintain not transforming into a level of consciousness over 600 yet. I might have to have a level of 600 consciousness lifestyle in order to do that. So this could be one of the challenges too, is lifestyle design in order to have it in alignment with the level of consciousness that one is going to move into, and understanding that process and those steps and the things that could happen. And framing it in terms of, wow, these panic attacks are the ego trying to die, not a mental illness. And it's, yeah, we'll see what happens.